Patch 3.25 is here in PoE. Settlers of Kalguur is a very, very exciting one. Let's jump straight into it and see how we're going to do Righteous Fire Chieftain in this league. I will be covering gems, jewels, flasks, gear, Pantheon, Ascendancy, Bandits, and everything else that comes with it. So don't worry, I have got you covered, including POB links in the description. Let me get out of the way and let's talk about the build. So this Righteous Fire Chieftain build in 3.25 is really, really tanky and is a great mapper. It's going to maintain a really good clear speed compared to other variants that I could have shown you, and the explodes that are going to occur from the Ascendancy do enough damage to even wipe out massive tanky rares and also map bosses. It doesn't come without a downside. Of course, no build does. This version is going to have a slightly under average recovery until you actually get your maximum fire resistance. But I always harp on about fire resistance and elemental resistances in my videos anyway. But on the flip side, it does mean it's simple. All you need to do is stack fire resistance, and the Ascendancy is basically going to cover our cold and lightning counterpart. So Righteous Fire, if you don't know it, has been in the game since the very early days, and it's had many variations ranging from Juggernaut, Occultist, Low-Life Guardians, Hybrid Inquisitors, and now, of course, the Chieftain. You can expect to charge through your enemies and burn them to death, while, as you can see literally on screen now, it is bloody righteous, let me tell you. And it is really, really fun to play. For those tougher targets where we can't just burn them into oblivion, we are going to be using punishment and throwing some fire traps as well. And of course, for full single target, we're going to want to stand still to gain the full effect of our Romanco Sun's Light. If you don't know what that means, more on that shortly. So now going on to the gems that we are going to be using. The POB link in the description is going to include drop downs for all levels going through gearing and also the gems. So you can see here in the early levels, we are going with Rolling Magma, still with some flame, you know, it's still going to be fire damage appropriate. And then we get Righteous Fire pretty early on. You can see by about sort of 21 to 40, this is when we are going to be getting it. By the end of here, you should be rolling pretty much the build already, meaning that the Righteous Fire Chieftain is a fantastic league starter, in my opinion. So let's start off then by basically saying, you know, let's say we're going over the full actual build. We're going to want Righteous Fire on a 4 blue gem link with Awakened Elemental Focus, Efficacy, and Awakened Increased Area of Effect. Quite obvious why we would want these, in my opinion. You could also go with, you know, burning damage support and things like this if you'd want to. Now remember, we are also going to be putting traps out there, and we can go for Fire Trap with Awakened Swift Affliction, Life Trap, Trap and Mind Damage, Awakened Burning Damage, and Empower. Again, so much fire damage in this build is actually insane. I love it. And then for the auras, we're going with Purity of Flame Malevolence. Summon Skitterbots with Enlighten for extra XP is really nice touch to this, I think. And earlier on, instead of Summon Skitterbots, you can go for Purity of Elements. Moving on to the jewels, gear, and flasks. We're not actually using any jewels in this build, but let's go along to the kind of more expensive endgame gear. I can show you the lower levels. It is all in here, but as you can see, it's not really very exciting, of course. I don't think that really needs explaining to you guys. But let's talk about what we're really looking for on our endgame gear, which is a bit more, you know. So, of course, loads of damage over time multipliers for the dots or damage over time that we are going to be using on here, especially, like you can see on the Vengeance Needle, increased fire damage, chance to ignite, and we can have up to, you know, modifiers, +1 to level of all fire spell skill gems, and any spell skill gems as well, which is insane for this. We're really wanting to go for as much fire damage as we can, of course, because that is pretty much all we're doing. Again, on the helm, you can see here we've got fire resistance. You do want to get to, you know, high resistances. Increased burning damage, again on here, and +1 to level of socketed AoE gems. Again, AoE damage, fire damage, ignite damage, anything like that is going to be absolutely fantastic in this build. We are, as you can tell, only really going for a few uniques in here too, meaning that gearing up should not be too difficult for you. Some more fire resistance, as well as life on the shield. On the rings, generally just massive resistances, and again, as much damage over time as you can comfortably get. Same thing on the amulet. Again, it's pretty much the same across the entire build. We are going for Annihilation's approach on the boots, which are one of the few uniques we are using, granting level 20 approaching flame skill, increased armor and evasion, of course movement speed, but we cannot be chilled and we cannot be frozen, which is one of my favorite things on here. Take 6,000 fire damage per second while flame touched, and gain adrenaline when you become flame touched, and lose adrenaline when you cease to be flame touched. Apart from that, it really is the same. Again, on the gloves, more AoE, more fire damage, etc. Some resistances. The stats are pretty simple on this one, guys. It's AoE, it's damage over time, multipliers, and resistances, and AoE damage and fire damage. For the flasks, I'm going for a silver flask, sulfur flask, granite, quicksilver, and quartz. I generally don't think we need a life flask in here. I like to go for a full suite of utility on these ones pretty simply. And that is it for the gear. I am fairly new to doing PoE builds, by the way, and I've been kind of testing, doing really in-depth analysis on the gear and gems, and then doing a more kind of shallow approach, just showing you guys roughly what to get and, you know, what kind of stats you're looking out for, etc. So do let me know in the comments which you prefer. I'm doing some like really, really in-depth, and then I'm doing some a bit more shallow like this one, and then kind of just checking on the comments and analytics. I really want to get people's opinions and see like what do you guys actually want from these videos. If you don't know me, I generally take a more beginner or kind of like digestible approach to games. I have a World of Warcraft channel, and I was very successful on there doing kind of beginner approach videos. Same with Diablo 3. And now on PoE, basically just all the games I love. So again, please do let me know your opinions in the comments below. Whether it's criticism or it's positive, I want to know either way. So now looking at the Ascendancy, Pantheon, Bandits, all of those things. Obviously we are going Chieftain. That's why it's called the Righteous Fire Chieftain. Who would have thought? So which ones are we taking first then, and why? So I like to go into Tassilo first, Cleansing Water, Life Regen and Fire Resistance. And then what we've got here is modifiers to fire resistance also apply to cold and lightning at 50% of their value unaffected by Ignite. Now this is why specifically we're going into so much fire resistance on the gear, because it's basically just going to go to all of the other elemental resistances as well through the Ascendancy. After that, now that we've got that out of the way, because I always like to hit home how important resistances are. They really are very important. A lot of people overlook them. Ramako, Sun's Light is next. So before that, we get life regen and fire damage. And then Ramako, Sun's Light, nearby enemy monsters, fire resistance against damage over time is -20 when you are stationary. Remember I said at the start that if you just stand still, you could just burn them into oblivion. This really helps with that and is one of the reasons why we do it. Then we're going to go to Henakora with life regen and more fire damage. And then enemies you or your totems kill have a 5% chance to explode, dealing 500% of their maximum life as fire damage, which is crazy. I love it. Lastly, we're coming back up to Valako Storm's Embrace, where modifiers to maximum fire resistance also apply to maximum cold and lightning resistances as well, fully forming out the resistances part of the Ascendancy. Bandits, you actually have a few options in this build. Help Caitlyn if you want more movement speed and you want to be like running around with your big fire circle, quicker and quicker. If you want to be tanky, help Oak. But for a more kind of general roundabout way, it's not a bad idea in this build to just kill them all and get more passives. I really would kind of just, if you want to get more do damage, that's going to be the way to go. And it's just like more rounded out option on that one. So if you wanted my overall opinion, kill them all. For the Pantheon then, it's Arakali on your major, and then Ralakesh on the minor, specifically for the bleed immunity. And that really is it, guys. That is how you're going to play Righteous Fire Chieftain in patch 3.25 for the Settlers of Kalguur PoE League. I hope it was really useful for you. Do join the Discord or Patreon if you need any help. I can help you one-on-one in DMs on Patreon, or we've got a VIP channel in the Discord as well where you can get any help on any of the builds I do offer, which, by the way, you can access by clicking this playlist link here, because I'm doing a hell of a lot of them for this 3.2 Kalguur lead.